Hello again, this is Tom Arreton with another explanation. Now, we do have posters, but we also have statues, we have badges, we have all kinds of other things in our museum. And I thought you might be interested in this one. Between 1966 and 1976, China was completely enmeshed in what's called the Cultural Revolution. It was kind of like a last huzzah of Mao Zedong, who tried to change the Chinese society in this kind of a strange, simple, agricultural, primitive almost way. And of course, to do that, he used students and young people who are very impressionable. He started it by writing his little red book, which, by the way, we have in our museum in Chinese, if you want to, and in English, which we actually bought in China, in Xi'an. Right after President Nixon opened China, a few years after, Lilka and I went to China and traveled around, and we gathered, some interesting statues from that time. Now, this one is pretty disquieting. It's a kneeling academic with a dunce cap. This white thing is called a dunce cap. And the dunce cap says, "Down with stinking old ninth." Now, Chinese is very difficult. It's a language that can hide a lot. Unless you know the whole part of it, you don't know what they are saying. So this is a professor. He is a stinking old ninth. I'll explain that later. Behind him is probably his student, used to be his student anyway, who is now abusing the old professor. Now, during the Cultural Revolution, Mao Zedong decided to divide up the society into 9 stinking old categories. Now, you wonder, like, categories? Like what? Middle class, upper class, what? No. These stinking categories were people like landlords, capitalist roaders. I mean, each category had its name. Rich landowners, anti-revolutionaries, right-wingers, traitors, pigs, capitalists. And number 9, the stinking old 9, were the worst. They were the intellectuals. Those had to be eliminated. So he is a stinking old ninth. He's an intellectual, a professor. It never tells us what kind of professor. Literature, physics, mathematics, sociology. We don't know. All we know that as an intellectual, he's the stinking ninth going against the revolution. And so what happened to him? Well, some actually have been killed by the students. Others, and I have a good friend who unfortunately already passed away. He was from Shanghai. He was one of those stinking 9. He was sent to the Taklamakan desert to dig irrigation ditches. Before that, he was a professor of English. So from that to digging ditches, at least he was alive, I would say. After the Cultural Revolution was over, he was supposed to return to Shanghai, but he ended up in Chengdu and settled down and never returned to Shanghai and started running a student exchange program. And I loved him. He was wonderful. Died of cancer. But this is the story of the intellectual during the Cultural Revolution, the stinking ninth. It was a total convulsion, and I'm so glad that Chiang Kai-shek took all those cultural relics to Taiwan when he had to escape China. because those people would have broken all of that wonderful Celadon pottery and all those wonderful sculptures and all that. So that got saved. It's in Taipei in a fantastic museum. If you have time, go there. But that was the sad story. There's something interesting that even most Chinese don't know. For a while, a short while, the these students decide that, what do you mean? Traffic lights, red means stop, and green means go. I mean, the green is capitalism, red is communism. Red should be go, and green should be stop. So they actually did that change. It created such a monumental tie-up in Beijing, as people didn't know whether they should stop or go or what. And in the movie Last Emperor, towards the end of the movie, when the last emperor is let out of jail, you see him standing on a curb, and the light changes from green to red, and people all cross the street. So that's the proof that it really happened. But they stopped that after a few days because it was just too hard. But most Chinese today, and young people are totally protected from this. They know nothing. But even older people today don't know that once red meant go and green meant stop. I mean, it was crazy. They were all lunatics. And it was an interesting part of culture, I'm sure. I'm happy it's gone, and I hope it never comes back.